Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a minute since I've done an episode with you. It's the holidays. You know how it is. It's hard to get to the casino and spend time there when you've got family and other priorities. So that's where my time has been going. I wanted to put an episode out, but really most of the poker I've been playing lately is on Poker Bros. I spend a lot of time on there because it's the easiest thing for me. I don't have to actually make a trip to the casino, and I get to play PLO, which I'm pretty addicted to these days. So yeah, I've got a PLO session for us, and what I decided as we go through this is I'm going to give away $100 minimum here. If we have a winning session, I'll add on whatever I win. I'll split it with the Patreon supporters, and the rest is going to go to a charitable cause. This year, what I want to do is my favorite charity. My wife and I, my family, we support a couple of kids through Compassion International. So this is Israel and Daniel. And yeah, these guys are awesome. We get to write letters back and forth. I've got a sample letter here from Israel. And yeah, we just write back and forth. We get to support them. They get access to education and medicine and a spiritual foundation in life. They just all kinds of good things that set them up for their future. And you're providing meals, you're providing shelter, all these things to these kids that they might not otherwise have. Encourage you, if you've not heard of Compassion International, to check them out. They're an incredible organization, really cool to connect with the kids. That's what we're going to do. We're playing today for something bigger than ourselves, right? So let's get into it. We're playing some PLO on Poker Bros. 30 cents, 60 cents is the limit, and this is where I spend a lot of my time. If you want to join me on Poker Bros, I'm in there often, and just check out the information in the description down below. You can join me and take some of my money on Poker Bros. Let's get into it. All right, interesting hand number one. I got Queen Jack 10-10, and I end up making the call here. We've got a lot of potential. We end up flopping where we've got like the huge straight potential, but we need our own cards to make the straight. And I don't think I played this hand extremely well. An opponent bets a huge amount into the pot, and I decide that I'm going to go ahead and make the call. I don't love that. I really don't. I think he's going to have, like, there's plenty of scary cards, but I just don't like the spot that it puts me in, and I'm going to end up having to fold here, which is just not the spot I want to be. I think if he makes a smaller bet, then it's totally a fine call, but I really don't like the call that I made here. I just don't have enough outs for the price that he's giving me, and so that plus some of my outs are dead due to the flush coming in. So I think that was a pretty terrible call. This next hand is King double suited. This is like as light as I would go here. I wouldn't go if this hand were any worse, if it wasn't double suited, it's just, it has very little connectivity, but the fact that I can flop a set or I have two potential flush draws, this is like a best case scenario on the flop here, one of the best case scenarios, where I have the overpair plus I have the flush draw. So I'm going to go ahead and check this over, and we get around to opponent who decides they're going to bet a huge amount. Now, I don't think I'm getting away, so I'm going to go ahead and jam. Because they went big, I'm going to go ahead and jam it in there, and we'll see what happens. We get the all-in from the short stack, and we're racing against aces. That's pretty bad news. We're going to need some help. I am a favorite here, but I don't love the spot I'm in. We end up making three of a kind by the river, and so, yeah, we're taking this one down, but we were a favorite, but just barely. On this one, I go ahead and raise this up to $2.70. We pot it. We're going to get some callers, and we're going to see if we can just flop a straight. That would be ideal. These wrap hands, I'd really like this to be double suited a lot more. I'm in a fairly early position when I raise, but there's the dream right there, is that it just comes down in your favor. Now, we're playing PLO. I don't have, like, the flushes on board, so this isn't, like, guaranteed to hold up. I definitely want to try to get some money in the pot here, so let's go ahead and put some money in. I decide on betting big, about 2/3 pot, because I want people to call, but I want them to pay the right price to call. And this board is really connected, and this works out perfectly. He's a shorter stack. He goes ahead and jams it, and we're going to make the call. You can see I'm a huge favorite here. I'll offer to run it 3 times because I'm going to realize more of my equity, and so he accepts running it 3 times. Unfortunately, immediately it comes down that he's got the flush. Now we need to win the next 2 in a row, and that one comes out clean, so that looks good. Now we need a hold, but we don't. He gets the flush again. So unfortunately, even though we were a 60% favorite, we only get 30% of this pot. For this one with Queen 10 with the pair and the suit, I think there's just enough connectivity. I don't know that I should be calling a 3-bet here. Probably a little suspect, probably a little too light actually to be making the call, but I end up making it and we flop really well. So opponent bets, we're going to make the call. We're in a pretty good spot here. The only issue is that we are still losing to like king, queen, and even though there's only one combination left of that, or pocket kings, so we're not in like a perfect spot. I'm going to end up playing this one a little bit slower, where I need to check and like kind of control the pot on the turn. And now once the opponent checks back, I could maybe stab at it, but even my queen, if they have a queen with a better kicker, I'm losing. So I think I have to play that one pretty small. We now get dealt aces. This is a new table where I'm heads up, just starting out. I've got aces, so one of them suited. Definitely going to be raising again. My opponent just decides to rip it, like basically, so we're going for it. He has aces as well, so let's go ahead and we'll run it twice. Might as well see if we can get there with our suited ace, and he agrees. I don't think this is a particularly good time for my opponent to agree to run it twice because I have the suit and he doesn't, but I'm grateful that he did. I end up getting the the trip tens, and so I end up getting to 3/4 him here, where I get half on one board and then we chop the other board. So this works out really nicely. Now I get the queens. I've got 3 to the suit. So I have the nut flush draw, but it's not ideal. I do flop the set, but the straight is available at the same time. And unfortunately, with the ace out there, it's less likely my hand's going to pair. So this is like, it's fine. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm also not going to get aggressive and be raising. So I just go ahead and make the call, and the other player folds. We go to the turn. Now I'm really in a bad spot where, there's plenty of combinations with a king that has the straight. So I really need the board to pair. I check, and my opponent checks back. So now I'm in a weird spot where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to just go for the little bit of value, and I get raised. I know where I'm at. I just need to fold. Now I get a suited ace again. I've played aces with this opponent already, where he overplayed. Well, I wouldn't say he overplayed, but he played his aces, pretty standard. We got all the money in, but then he allowed me to run it twice when I had the suited ace. So I'm pretty content to go ahead and raise this one up. We flop the set, but I only have one heart and I don't have it until we hit the boat on the turn. This is a nice fill up here where we have the chance to now get some value if he has I'm hoping he has like a weak flush. But what I decided is he's probably not. He's probably going to bluff more often than he's going to call. So let's go ahead and check. I'm really not worried about any cards here, and let's see if we can get the bluff from him. I think he bluff stabs here for the 480. I thought, at least. He ends up putting the money in and calling super light with just an ace. Really surprised that he made that bet and that he made that call. I think with the ace there, you're just going to want to check and try to get the showdown. Maybe call a bet. So I'm really stoked that I ended up getting that much from him. Again, we have aces, and I'm going to go ahead and raise this one up. Now the table's full, so we're sitting 9-handed. We have the suit. Again, 3 to the suit's not ideal. It's reducing the likelihood we're actually going to hit the flush. But we have aces. We have the jack, so we have some straight possibilities as well. We flop an interesting spot where I've got the overpair, plus I have the gut shot. But I just have the overpair. I don't want to go crazy here. I'm going to go ahead and check because, yes, exactly. The flush can come in. This is not great. I do have the straight now, so this is an interesting spot where I could maybe stab, but I'm pretty content to try to just get to showdown. I end up just checking back my straight. So on the river, my opponent checks, and I'm just going to end up checking back here. He's going to have a baby flush sometimes, and sure enough, he has the flush. So we're losing this hand. That was not an ideal turn. We would have liked to see any queen that wasn't a club, but oh well, it's going to happen that way. For this hand, I end up potting it with the suited ace and all the Broadway cards. Definitely a very strong starting hand, but it's not double suited. It doesn't have a pair in it. It's not like the absolute strongest possible, but I'm pretty excited, especially when this flop comes down. We get the nut flush draw, the top pair, plus the straight draw. We have a ton of equity. So I think there's multiple ways I can play this spot. I probably would have looked to maybe do some check raising, but the way this works out with my opponent going for the bet, now I'm just going to go for the raise right here. Obviously, he's short stacked, so I'm going to cover. We've got another short stacked opponent behind. So this is a pretty interesting spot where we could see a bunch of money go in. It ends up folding around, and then it goes back to the opponent who makes the call for the all-in. All right, so we're in really good shape here. We agreed to run it 3 times, and let's watch these runouts. make a straight on the first board. My opponent has queen 6 and ends up actually beating us, even though we were an equity favorite here. Man, sometimes the cards just aren't running out your way. This hand, I don't play well at all, but it gets around to me. I end up 3-betting. I'm in position, and this hand plays better heads up than it does multi-way. Of course, that doesn't seem to deter anyone. We get 2 callers anyway, but then it goes back around to the original raiser, who then makes the 4-bet. So at this point, I just need to release this hand and let it go, but I decide there's dead money in there. He might be going for the squeeze. I got a little out of line, a little out of control. I went for the 5-bet, and this table has also been running it twice a lot, so I thought, even if I'm in bad shape, I have a decent chance to get one of these boards. We end up turning the cards up. He has aces, so he wasn't messing around. I end up agreeing to run it twice. Here are the runouts. So he's going to hit the boat on the first one. He's going to hold with aces on the second one. We end up just losing everything. Now I'm in late position with double suited 10s, and I raise this one up. We go to a flop where we flop open-ended. So not a terrible hand, but we also don't have a hand that's like wanting to bet or anything or put money in the pot. I just want to kind of see turns and try to realize we do have backdoor spades, though they're really light. So it checks over to the third villain. The third villain ends up putting in a bet for 5-10. Pretty good sized bet. I am open-ended. I do have backdoor spades. I end up making the call. Maybe a little suspect. The problem is if my set comes in, a straight's going to come in with it as well. So this might just be a fold. Even though I'm open-ended, I'm not like open-ended on the upside of this as well, on the upper side. So like I don't have like the, queen 10 combination. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now my 10 is probably live again. He bets 960, so pretty small compared to the pot. Here's what happens. Flips it up, and of course the case 10 comes in, so I would have hit the boat. But even looking at the hand that he had, I wasn't in great shape to that hand either. So I don't hate the fold, even though it was, a small, it was pretty affordable. Anytime you're calling into a dry side pot, there's not really a ton of incentive for that player to be bluffing. So I figured I was probably behind, and I don't hate the fold. All right, now we have aces again, one of them suited. This is a dream scenario. You bet, you get 3-bet, multiple callers. So now we just get to stuff the money in. We get the caller for the all-in and multiple callers. So we're feeling really good. We got called super light, and we're definitely a favorite. I asked to run it 3 times. Gets rejected to run it 3 times, but we just go ahead and flop the boat. So don't even have to sweat it. This one's an easy one, and we're scooping in some chips. Next, I have the king, jack 10 with the suit. We end up getting 1 caller and heading to the flop. Flop isn't perfect for us, but it's pretty good. So we've got the flush draw. We do have the overpair to our kings, unfortunately, with the ace on board, but we also have the straight draw. So we got the flush and the straight draw working for us, plus a set potential that does not bring in a straight. That's all good news. I continue for $3.40, and my opponent decides he's done with this hand. Now I get double suited queens. This is about as light as I'm willing to open. I don't want to go any lighter than this. Like if one of those is not suited, if the 10 is not connected at all, if the 10 was say like a 7 instead, I'd probably fold. But it's just enough connection that I feel like I can open this hand. Go ahead and open. We get 1 caller and we go to this flop where we hit second set. There is a flush draw on board. I'm going to go ahead and bet it. I want to definitely get some value now. I don't want to see a diamond come in. But of course, that's the way it's going today. Just whatever we don't want to see is showing up way too often. So the flush does come in. I go ahead and check this one over. He bets 330. I'm not going away for this price. I'm going to go ahead and make the call. I can definitely fill up here still. Unfortunately, we don't fill up. I'm going to go ahead and check it over again. And my opponent now, so now there is a flush on board and the straight. I'm figuring I'm going to get blown off this hand, but he ends up checking back. And we end up realizing and winning this pot, which is nice. All right, this one is a doozy. I started recording a little bit late here, but I have the pair of 9s with the ace. He bets. I go ahead and raise him, and my opponent now raises again. So what could he be doing this with? Maybe he has a set of 4s. Maybe he has ace 4. It's possible he has aces. There's only 1 combination left. I'm going to go ahead and rip it with the middle set. He's probably going to have some heart draws that have the ace as well. Unfortunately, he has the heart draw and the set of aces. I'm basically just drawing dead. This is terrible news, but he offers to run it twice. Sure, we'll run it twice. And of course, he fills up with a boat on the first board, and we're not going to win the second one either because we need quads, and it's not going to show up. So we get scooped again for a huge pot. Things not going so well. Glad we made the decision to just make a donation no matter what, because it's not looking like we're adding to the $100 this time. All right, this time we have basically a rundown here. It's all in clubs, but I was in late position. I opened, and then everybody behind me called. So interesting spot here, but we do end up flopping the open ender backdoor clubs. I'm not really counting on a club draw to come in, but with the open ender, I'm in an interesting spot. I'm going to check and see if we can realize some equity. We get a continuation bet from the button, and he's going to bet for half pot. We're usually just going to have the nuts when it comes in, so that's really nice. Like we're good to a jack, we're good to a 10, we're good to an 8, a 7, a 5. Like we've got a lot of cards that are coming in here. A 6 is going to improve our equity. Of course, it doesn't change. The flush comes in. So that's not ideal, but my opponent, when he bet, could have had some overpairs, could have had some sets, and might not be happy to see this diamond come in. I go ahead and make a bet. Now, this is a little bit... I'm getting creative. I'm definitely getting creative here. But I think there's some hands that are not going to be excited to see that diamond. He calls, so that's not a good sign. Now the deuce comes in. So he's maybe not scared of the flush. He might have been betting the flush draw. But now I've bet it, like I might have a set, I might have diamonds. There's a lot of hands that don't want to see this deuce. I just decided to rip it, and my opponent ends up making the fold. So yes, I got a little creative there, but like holding the 6, maybe having some like boat potential there where I could have like flopped the set instead of just flopping the single pair with the straight draw. I decided to get creative. It ends up working out. Pretty happy with the result. Definitely got a little creative. Painted in some other colors there.
In your world, you can do anything that you want to do. There we are.
For this next one, we've got aces again. This is a really strong starting hand. We've got the aces with the suit and the Broadway king. The only way this gets better is if the king is the king of clubs. There's a raise, then a call. Gets back around to me. I'm going to go ahead and pot this thing. Let's see if we can get a call from a player. Oh, what's this? The small blind. He's a short stack. Small blind, going to go ahead and make the call. Goes around to the original raiser, is going to make the call. We get 3 callers. So now this went from being like, yes, I'm getting a caller, to, oh crap, I have 3 callers and I'm holding aces. It's amazing how quick aces can fall apart in this game, especially when you're multi-way. If you think they're like, if they don't hold up multi-way well enough in Hold'em, just play some PLO. You'll see they rarely hold up if you go multi-way in this game. Short stack makes the jam. We're going to make the call. Let's see what happens on the run out. He has queens, so we're in really good shape. I'm not going to run it more than once. We're just going to run it one time. Show me no queen. It's clean. We're good. Whew. The way we've been running today, I figured even though it's a short stack, somehow we're going to find a way to get beat here. So this time with the aces, when we end up potting it, we end up getting 2 callers, and we're headed to a flop. One of the callers is extremely short. We go to this flop, which is queen, queen, deuce, not what we were looking for. And now an opponent goes all in. I'm probably beat here. That said, there's going to be some diamond draws. There's going to be, like, we're not completely drawing dead. The short stack's throwing his money in no matter what. So we're just basically heads up with this guy. I end up being a favorite, which I was kind of surprised. Like, I thought throwing it in, like, I'm going to be beat a fair amount here, but nice to see the diamond draw. Unfortunately, the diamond draw comes in. We just can't seem to win a hand. We're losing all these hands. And it ends up being a pretty poor session overall. It's down $150, doesn't matter. Still giving away $100 to Compassion. I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll consider this organization. They're super cool. You get to adopt a kid, talk with them, write letters back and forth, and get to see like life change for them. It's a really cool thing. Really great organization. Consider joining me on there. In the meantime, if you want to take my money so you can make an even bigger donation, check out the club down below, join it, and you'll get 25% rake back. And then I'm on there. I'm making donations. You saw it. It's available to you. So come take my money. Hope you have a great week. Hope you enjoy your holiday season. Enjoy your time with your family and the ones you love. And I will talk to you again next time. Doing 80 to the house, then I hit it to the sky, change haters on a tirade, talking to the crib in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade.